Title: She donated her blood to save life of little boy. Unaware his dad is one of the richest men alive. Part 1. The blood donor. The snowstorm had swallowed the small Colorado town whole. Visibility outside the hospital window was nearly zero. The world turned into a blur of white and wind. Inside Ridgeway General Hospital, the power had flickered twice in the last hour. Backup generators hummed quietly as nurses moved briskly between patients in the pediatric ICU. It was 2:07 a.m. when the call came through the intercom. Dr. Keaton's voice cracked with urgency. Code Crimson. Pediatric unit. Immediate O-negative donor required. Child in critical state. Nurse Maya Sullivan froze mid-step in the corridor. Her hazel eyes narrowed toward the red light blinking above the ICU door. She knew what Code Crimson meant. An emergency transfusion with no available blood in stock. The blizzard had grounded all incoming flights and shut down the nearest supply route. There was no way to get more blood in time. Without a second thought, she turned and dashed to the front desk. "What blood type?" she demanded. "O-negative," the receptionist replied, breathless. "Boy, 6 years old. Trauma from a collapsed cabin wall. He's lost nearly a liter already." Maya's breath hitched. She was O-negative. "I'll do it," she said. "You sure?" the receptionist asked, startled. "You don't even know the patient." "I don't need to," she answered firmly. "Get the kit ready." Downstairs in the surgical lab, Maya rolled up her sleeve. As the needle slid into her vein, she stared at the wall, her thoughts far away. She had been a nurse for only 3 years, but she'd seen enough to know how fragile life was, especially for children. Especially when the odds were stacked against them. The boy's name was Thomas. No last name. Found half buried in the snow outside a remote cabin, unconscious, barely breathing. His parents were missing. Search and rescue couldn't reach the location because of the storm. He had no ID, no history, no one waiting outside the ICU for updates. Only silence. As the blood bag filled with her own warm crimson, Maya whispered under her breath, "Hang in there, Thomas. You're not alone anymore." The moment the transfusion reached the boy's veins, monitors stabilized. His blood pressure crept upward, oxygen levels steadied, and the erratic beeping of the machines softened into a rhythmic pulse. Doctors nodded, relieved. Maya watched from behind the glass, her arms still wrapped in gauze. A small smile touched her lips. Hours passed. The storm didn't let up. By sunrise, news of Maya's donation had spread through the hospital. Nurses patted her shoulder, calling her a hero. She didn't feel like one. She'd just done what anyone else should have done. But something strange happened later that afternoon. She went back to the ICU to check on Thomas. A nurse pointed to his bed. He's stable. Still unconscious, but he's fighting. And, the nurse hesitated. He's been talking in his sleep. Maya frowned. "About what?" The nurse replied, "He keeps saying your name." Maya blinked. "What?" Over and over. "Maya. Maya, help me." "Like he knows you." Chills traced up her spine. She had never seen him before. She wasn't even on shift when he was brought in. She stepped quietly to the boy's bedside. His face was pale but calm, framed in messy brown hair. As she leaned closer, his lips parted again. Barely a whisper. "Maya, please don't leave me, again." The words turned her blood cold. Again? Before she could process it, his eyes fluttered open. They were a deep shade of green. Familiar. Strangely familiar. He looked straight at her and smiled faintly. "I knew you'd come." Maya staggered back. The storm outside roared louder. And in that moment, something about this child didn't just feel like fate. It felt like a forgotten memory, trying to claw its way back. Part 2. Maya's heart pounded as she stared into Thomas's deep green eyes. Eyes that seemed too knowing for a 6-year-old. How could he recognize her? She had never seen him before. The words he whispered haunted her mind. "Please don't leave me again." She swallowed hard, trying to push away the chill crawling up her spine. But something about Thomas felt oddly familiar, like a fragment of a forgotten dream. The pediatric team gathered around, their faces etched with exhaustion but hopeful. Dr. Keaton stepped forward, eyes flicking between Maya and the boy. "He's stable for now," Keaton said softly. "But unconsciousness with brief awakenings, especially after trauma like this, can be misleading. We need to keep monitoring." Maya nodded, but her mind was elsewhere. She glanced again at Thomas, who now lay quietly, eyes closed, breathing steady. She touched his small hand. It was warm, reassuring, and somehow fragile. Later, as the hospital halls grew quiet under the relentless snowstorm, Maya found herself drawn back to Thomas's room. She sat beside his bed, her thoughts a jumble of questions. Who was he? Why had he called her name? She pulled her jacket tighter around her and glanced at the small belongings found with him. Just a worn backpack and a faded photograph of a woman smiling with a little girl. No names, no clues. Suddenly, her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Stop looking. Some things are better left buried. Maya's blood ran cold. She looked around the empty hallway, heart thudding. Who would send such a warning? Why? Determined not to be intimidated, she decided to dig deeper. The next day, Maya asked the hospital records clerk about any previous patients named Thomas matching his description. The clerk hesitated, then shook her head. No record. No family contacts either. That only deepened the mystery. Back at the ICU, Thomas stirred again. This time, his eyes fluttered open, and he whispered something that froze Maya in place. Don't trust the nurses. Not all of them. Maya's skin prickled. Who was he warning about? And how did he know? Questions multiplied. But with every answer she sought, the shadows around Thomas's past thickened. Maya realized she was no longer just a nurse tending to a sick child. She was the guardian of a secret someone wanted to keep hidden at all costs. Outside, the snowstorm raged on, but inside Ridgeway General, a silent battle had just begun. Part 3. Days passed, but Thomas remained in a fragile state, caught between moments of consciousness and deep sleep. Maya spent every free moment by his side, studying the boy's subtle expressions, searching for any sign of recognition or communication. The hospital buzzed with whispers. Strange things were happening, but no one dared speak openly. Maya's curiosity pushed her to investigate further. She combed through hospital records late into the night, piecing together fragments of information. She discovered that Thomas had no official identity in the system, no birth certificate, no previous medical history. He was a ghost. One evening, as she scanned a faded journal she found tucked away in an old storage room, the name Annika caught her eye. The journal belonged to a nurse who had worked at Ridgeway years ago and had mysteriously vanished. Annika's final entries hinted at a dark secret hidden deep within the hospital's walls. A secret some were desperate to keep hidden. The more Maya read, the more the pieces began to fall into place. Thomas wasn't just any lost child. He was connected to the very heart of the hospital's buried sins. Determined to uncover the truth, Maya sought out the hospital's oldest wing, long closed to the public. The air was thick with dust and silence. As she explored the abandoned corridors, she found a small, hidden room sealed behind a heavy metal door. Inside, files and photographs lay scattered, revealing unethical experiments and cover-ups involving children, including Thomas. The walls seemed to whisper, shadows flickering at the edge of her vision. Suddenly, Maya felt a cold breath on her neck and heard a faint voice, almost a whisper. Find the truth, before it finds you. Her heart pounded as footsteps echoed behind her. Spinning around, she found only darkness. With renewed determination, Maya knew she was close to unveiling a terrible secret, one that could shatter the hospital's reputation and put her own life at risk. But for Thomas, the truth could be the key to survival. Part 4. Maya's discovery in the abandoned wing haunted her every waking moment. She couldn't shake the feeling that unseen eyes were watching her, waiting for her next move. The hospital seemed to pulse with a hidden menace, as if the very walls themselves were alive with secrets better left buried. She carefully gathered the files and photographs, determined to expose the truth. The evidence detailed experiments on children, trials conducted without consent, under the guise of medical research. Thomas was one of their victims, a child lost to cruel science and hidden agendas. One evening, while reviewing the documents in her small apartment, Maya's phone buzzed. An unknown number. Hesitant but compelled, she answered. A distorted voice whispered, "Stop digging, Maya. Some stones are meant to stay unturned." Before she could respond, the line went dead. Fear and resolve warred inside her. She knew she was being warned, but backing down wasn't an option. The next day, Maya confronted Dr. Harper, the hospital's lead physician, with what she had found. His calm demeanor cracked for a moment, a flicker of fear or guilt, before he regained control. "Maya, you don't understand what you're dealing with," he said quietly. "There are powerful people involved. Walking this path could destroy you." But Maya's eyes burned with determination. "What happened to those children, Harper? Why was Thomas left in the dark? I want answers." Harper hesitated, then sighed. "There's a reason this hospital was built here. Beneath it lies something ancient, something dangerous. The experiments were meant to protect us, to control it." "Control what?" Maya pressed. "The darkness," Harper whispered. "It feeds on fear and pain. Those children were sacrifices to keep it contained." Maya's blood ran cold. The hospital wasn't just a place of healing. It was a battleground against something beyond comprehension. Determined to save Thomas and expose the truth, Maya vowed to uncover the full extent of the darkness lurking beneath Ridgeway Hospital, no matter the cost. But as night fell, Maya sensed she was no longer alone. Shadows moved in the corners of her vision, and a chilling presence closed in. The fight had only just begun. Part 5. The weight of the secret pressed heavily on Maya as she prepared to confront the darkness beneath Ridgeway Hospital. She knew this was no ordinary battle. What she faced was beyond science, beyond reason. That night, armed only with a flashlight and the file she had salvaged, Maya sneaked into the hospital's basement. The air grew colder as she descended the dimly lit stairwell, each step echoing like a warning. Her heart pounded, but she pushed forward. In the deepest chamber, she found it, a sealed door covered in strange symbols, faintly glowing in the shadows. The walls seemed to whisper, voices from another time calling out in pain and fear. With trembling hands, Maya forced the door open. Inside was a cavernous space, walls lined with ancient markings and the remnants of old machinery. In the center, a small figure lay motionless, Thomas. Maya rushed to him, tears streaming down her face. "I'm here, Thomas. I won't let them hurt you anymore." Suddenly, the shadows coalesced into a dark shape, a twisting mass of malevolent energy. It hissed, feeding on the fear radiating from the chamber. "You cannot stop what has been set in motion," it whispered. "The darkness will consume all." But Maya stood firm. Drawing strength from her love for Thomas and the truth, she held up the files, evidence of the experiments, the sacrifices, the lies. "The world will know," she declared. "You won't be hidden in the dark any longer." The shadows shrieked and recoiled, dissolving like mist in the dawn light. The oppressive chill lifted, replaced by a fragile warmth. Thomas stirred, opening his eyes. Maya smiled through her tears, relief flooding her heart. Together, they emerged from the depths, carrying the truth with them. The hospital's dark past would no longer be forgotten, and the children lost to silence would finally have their voices heard. Maya's courage had broken the cycle, but the scars of Ridgeway Hospital would linger, a reminder that some darkness, no matter how deep, can be faced and overcome.